Well, good Monday morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Deborah Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light. It's been a tragic weekend. At least 4 people are dead and 8 others are hurt after a church shooting in Michigan on Sunday. Police say an ex-Marine smashed a pickup into a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township that's just outside of Flint. Police say the man began shooting and then set fire to the church. The suspect was killed by police. The FBI says this was an act of targeted violence. And this is the very latest incident in a string of shooting attacks on houses of worship. And it was also the second mass shooting in less than 24 hours. You may have heard on Saturday, a man in a boat killed 3 and injured 5 in Southport, North Carolina.
It's so overwhelming, but what an opportunity for people who are Christians to love and support people who are grieving. Grief is one of those burdens that we carry, being able to share that with people.
Yes, certainly, and pray.
Well, how much does it cost to make the American dream a reality, and what kind of sacrifices must you make to get there? A new survey reveals the answers to those questions. The Morning Light panel will share ways our faith can help reshape our dreams and its price tag.
I can't wait to hear. And here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. Honoring the sacredness of every human life. That is the mission of Align Life Ministries. Learn how this nonprofit is helping women who are facing an unplanned pregnancy. Plus, find out how you can help Align continue its life-saving work by attending its annual fundraising dinner.
And Align is wonderful because not only are they helping women, but their partners as well.
That's right, and they're helping them every step of the way.
Every step, yeah. Well, what do Americans really want out of life? New analysis from Investopedia breaks down exactly what the American dream looks like in 2025. There are 8 major components. We want to retire comfortably, have affordable quality health care. We want to own a home, raise a family, buy new cars, go on a yearly vacation, and have a wedding. But the dream isn't complete, as you see there, without pets. 66% of us say we want to have enough to care for our creatures' comforts. And we love our pets at the Coleman House.
Oh, we do too here at the Blacker House. So if you add up all of those components, the cost of the American dream is really staggering. The house, the car, vacations, the full package will cost more than $5 million in your lifetime.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. But there's one major obstacle to making this a reality. The average career earnings for someone with a bachelor's degree in America is just $2.8 million.
I'm not great at math.
So you're coming up short.
You're coming up a little short.
Yes.
Well, what are the trade-offs of this extraordinary lifetime pursuit in relationships, in family, in time, in the enjoyment of life and your health? What is the spiritual cost of making major life decisions based on chasing somebody's self-directed goals or dream? And is there a different way to think about money based on Christian principles of stewardship, generosity, living missionally for others, not just in pursuit of financial dreams? The Morning Light panel will tackle these tough questions, and we're grateful to a panel that has all the answers. So that we've never had. We have 2 pastors and a correction set. 2 pastors and a correction secretary walk into a studio.
And a minister. He's a minister.
And you are indeed.
Absolutely.
So here we go. The American dream is defined. It is programmed into us probably since World War II. We've moved from this idea of you make, you earn, you live, and you have enough. And then you have enough to share. And then the kind of financial planner model is, what kind of dream do you see yourself having? How do you want to live when you retire? And will you have enough money to reach your dreams? Take that, Josh, and put it up against the Christian view of our money, of retirement, of planning for retirement, all of that.
I have probably a non-conventional way of approaching this. As a pastor, I believe one of the most sobering moments that I have is when someone passes away, right? When someone dies, you get the most sober mind, I believe, that a person has. And it's amazing what's not mentioned at a person's memorial service or their funeral. Their house is never mentioned, their car is never mentioned, their vacations are never mentioned. But that seems to be where the highest point of our spending, what our focus is, and I just don't see it. I don't see those things. I think that's contributing to why the mental health crisis in our country is on the rise, is because it's the misvalue of what's important. And I think though all of those things are passing, all of those things are temporary.
Yeah. Joe Green, who's telling us this? Who at the beginning is programmed? Is it just, we just naturally want stuff, and then we want more stuff? The latest iPhone runs out, we have to get the update because the button is moved from one side to the other. There's a new model of a car. I mean, we have to have it because the seats move a little differently, but we say that it's because it's more fuel efficient. Who is telling us the lie that there's certain things that will make us happier?
I think right now our society, our culture in America is driven by corporatism. And
what do you mean by that?
What I mean is the materialism, the commercials, what we're been told is important. And I joke about this all the time. You had an iPhone 15, and then they came out with a new one, and it has 4 cameras as opposed to 3 cameras. And now you realize I have to have 4 cameras on my phone.
Got to count your cameras. You're right.
Exactly. So what that does is that drives a certain focus that really goes against, like Pastor said, what's really important. Because the things that are very important that we know that the scripture tells us, family, relationships, helping others, those are the things now that has not become, they're not the most important things. So the most important things now is materialism, material things. We have to get the newest and the latest, even though the last one we had was more than enough. Yeah. We didn't use all the functions on our last thing, but now we need more functions. And so I think when I went away on my trip, I saw how life could be so fulfilling.
Went away, just to be clear, you did not go to prison.
Right.
You were on a vacation.
I was on a Mediterranean cruise, and when I was in the island of Mykonos,
we
were jacked up.
Here we go.
So I saw how fulfilling life was for people that were just living life for family, friendships, relationships, and those type of things.
There's a different pace over.
It's a completely different pace. They weren't worried about the newest and latest phone or car. They were just focused on the things that were so important. And even our health suffers because of this rat race that we're in, that focus on just keep trying to get more stuff, even though we had more than we needed before.
But there's something in our mind that says, but I don't want to have to be a burden to other people when I'm older, right? I want to be able to take care of myself so that if the kids want to see me, fine. If they don't, that's okay too. I don't want to have to move in with them. This is a value system that's about 75 years old, and it certainly doesn't happen in other countries. What is it about retirement that we are now thinking it is about a certain kind of living, and we don't want to be dependent on our church or each other?
I think one of the blessings of this time we're living in now is it really, every day we called the question on our Christianity and what our focus is and what our actual goals are. And you say 75 years, I'd probably argue about 2,000 years, maybe a little longer, because I go back to the early formation of the church. And if you take sermons of, for instance, St. Basil, it's the same thing. He's in the church, and there's one called For the Rich. There's another called Social Justice, and he says, if you have 2 coats and your neighbor has none, you're a thief. And in the one, you can almost hear him ranting. And so you talk about social media. I don't think there was social media back then, but the same pressures were there. And it was the church calling Christians whose job is to focus on the right thing. And I think the thing in studying that and trying to revalue my life, which I certainly lost focus and put me in a bad spot. And looking at these other things, one of the facts that really jumped out at me and described in these early fathers are the philosophers of our church. And from Greek, same area, was the explicit focus that we have 2 natures, and one of those natures is immortal. Because God made it immortal by becoming man, right? So we have this thing, and we focus on the part of the nature that's going to be here for about 80 years.
So to pick up where John is saying, there's this idea of your treasure. Scripture says where your treasure is, there your heart is going to be. Lay up treasures in heaven as opposed to stockpiling here. Where is the little line? Is it you and God figuring out where the line is? Can you just pursue until he stops you? Do you just, how do you make this practical, real life, regular folk who just want to know, okay, am I allowed to buy this? Am I not allowed to buy? We have freedom to do that, but how should we get our hearts right when it comes to our money so it doesn't own us?
I think two things. Number one, if you follow the scripture and follow its wisdom, you will be a good steward of whatever you have. So that's the first thing. Is this: if you steward what God has blessed you with, there's promises attached to that, and you can sustain yourself if you do that. But here's the other piece. I think instead of thinking about how much money I have at retirement, maybe think about how much I pour into those who are in my community of care. And so when I get into a position where I need care, I've given out so much that my community rallies around me. I've built a community that's going to take care of me, and because I've been taking care of them. So it's this reciprocal community.
The needs are met by the community that you have loved.
Yes.
When you're physically diminished and you can't get up the stairs, make the casserole.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
How do you think about this practically? What is the number one thing you think somebody could do today who's maybe 75 or 80 and thinking, oh no, these guys are telling me I did it wrong, I want to do it right? Yeah. How do you help them not feel despair at this point that maybe they wasted some time and money?
I think what the church and the scriptures should lead us to focus on is faith, family, and community. If we focus on faith, family, and community, those drive things
in that order, yeah.
To where it creates an environment where we don't have to worry about those things. And what I'm reminded of is we had a family from Nepal that lived across the street from us. And in their household, they had their 105-year-old grandparents, their parents or whatever. So in that community, the elderly didn't have to worry about going to a retirement home or a rehab center because the family took care of it. And in times past, that was the focus. And so when we focus on those things and we sow into our kids and grandkids and we present the right type of priorities, then hopefully, and I say this all the time to our children, even in our youth ministry, I have an ulterior motive. The reason I'm trying to lead them to Christ and disciple them is so that when I get older, I have a community of people that says, hey, we care about our elderly and we're going to make sure they're okay. So I don't have to worry about going into a retirement home where people that don't know me, because the people that are taking care of me now are the ones that I help to nurture along the way.
Awesome. Last 30 seconds. You tell people a lot. You give this vision for being a part of community in the church, and you have not always, that has not always been your community. That's not been your default. When you take that first step into a church, and that you say, okay, this is my family now. Is that a hard thing to do? Because I know people out here are thinking, that might be really difficult at my age to go in and be vulnerable and be part of a community.
Yeah, it's easily the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
First of all, you have to achieve some level of humility, which is very difficult.
Yeah.
And but
to
God,
say you need people.
Yeah, but God told us this from the beginning. I mean, listen, we had 10 commandments, and that wasn't good enough because we always found an 11th way to not love our neighbor. And so God made it real explicit. You only have to know two things. You have to love God with all your heart, and you have to love your neighbor. And who's your neighbor? Everybody. And if you do those two things, that's the guide to how spending money. Make sure you're hitting those two things.
Good word for the day. Thank you, John Wetzel. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much. Well, proclaiming the gospel of Jesus, Align Life Ministries champions the sacredness of every human life through pregnancy services and equipping resources. You're watching Morning Light right here on Lighthouse TV.
Welcome back. About 6,000 people attended the 5th annual Pennsylvania March for Life last week. Align Life Ministries, a crisis pregnancy center that shares the gospel and practical services with women facing an unplanned pregnancy, was there. Joining me is Julie Baum, Vice President of Church and Supporter Relations with Align Life Ministries. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Remind us about Align Life Ministries.
Yes, so we are an evangelical Christian ministry, a pregnancy resource center ministry, and our mission is that we align with God to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ and to champion the sacredness of human life. And we do that through three main ways: our pregnancy services ministry, strategic partnerships, partnering with other like-minded organizations in the state, nation, and globally, and then also equipping resources where we put into print things that God has taught us. So we have our president, Lisa Hostler, wrote a book, and we have a new children's book out just to share the principles about proclaiming the gospel and championing life that we have learned.
And you were there last week at Pennsylvania's March for Life. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it was marvelous. I love going. This was my 4th time going. I think it's the 5th March that they've had, but I just love it so much. Having Ryan there as he was the MC and the keynote speaker was a joy, because with him, I felt like he just makes it seem like it's one big family gathering. And I got to see a lot of colleagues from other organizations that I don't often get to see, so connect with them. And just to hear all the inspiring speakers and the worship, and a chance to visit some of our political representatives, and just to stand as citizens of Pennsylvania in support of the truth of life and the sacredness that God has given us by how he's made us. So yeah, it's a marvelous day.
Yeah, Morning Light was there. It was really a wonderful experience. So many people, so many signs of encouragement. How do you think events like this change lives?
Well, I think that they change lives a couple of ways. Like, one, certainly changing the lives of the people who are there, thinking about how God tells us to not neglect the assembling of ourselves together so that we can encourage one another as we see the day approaching. And courage, really, like courage rising was a theme that I felt, and we need courage as we see the day approaching. So I think we are all encouraged and inspired by being there. And then just the sheer number of people and how it grows every year, it makes a statement. Like, you cannot argue that thousands of Pennsylvanians are gathering to stand for the truth, and nothing will deter them. We won't ever stop. And so that sends a message to, people who are not really sure where they stand. It sends a message to our political leaders. It sends a message to our fellow citizens and to our families. It's very powerful in terms of the size.
Yeah, and people of all ages were there, so that is wonderful. Now, you mentioned Ryan. Ryan's going to be joining you for a fundraising dinner coming up next month. Tell us about that.
Yes, we are so thankful to have Ryan and his wife, Bethany. They'll be our keynote speakers at our upcoming fundraising dinner, which is Friday, October 10th. And it is at the Lancaster County Convention Center in downtown Lancaster City. And it is an annual event that we have to raise money for the ministry that we do, the pregnancy centers that we operate. We have one in Lancaster, Lebanon, Columbia, and Ephrata, and then provide services to pregnant and parenting and abortion recovery clients. So it takes funds to make those happen, and we're so thankful to invite people who have a heart for investing in that ministry and who just are looking to join us in worship and prayer and to hear what God is doing through us locally and the things that we believe he has on the horizon. So Ryan, he's a good friend of the ministry, and we just know that he's going to really inspire and encourage people again through what he has to say that evening.
Yeah, he has a remarkable story, that is for sure. How do fundraising dinners like this really help your ministry?
Well, it takes funds, it takes money to keep our doors open, to keep our lights on, to keep the centers staffed, to help us plan for the future as we expand in terms of our strategic partnerships and helping, for example, other pregnancy centers in an area that there aren't a lot, but there are a lot of abortions. So Philadelphia, for example, there are 3 functioning pregnancy centers there, but about 40% of the state's abortions happen there. So just feeling a heart for helping them however we can, feeling a heart for helping other pregnancy centers across the state, just remembering to keep focused on Jesus, that the spiritual help of the woman is important. And so we're just glad for funds to enable us to have the communication resources, the print resources, the story sharing, the staff, and we're grateful, and God provides.
A ministry that's certainly making a difference. Julie, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Coming up next on Morning Light, as you just heard, the keynote speaker for the banquet will be Ryan Bomberger. He will give us a preview of his speech. Stay with us. We're back right after the break. Ryan, thanks for joining us. You will be the guest speaker for Align Life Ministries fundraising dinner in October. What will your message be?
Well, I'm really excited, of course, because I get to come back to the state where I was born and where I grew up in Lancaster County, a little farm. So it's awesome to come back. Align Life Ministries is an amazing, amazing ministry. And it's not actually just me. My wife and I will be speaking together. And the theme of the evening is awesome. It's yesterday, today, and forever. And it's based on Hebrews 13:8, which says, of course, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His love is the same. His truth is the same. So our message is really about how God delivers us from our own brokenness and how he brings such incredible beauty from those situations that where people look at him, that's so tragic, that's irredeemable. But God redeems all the time. So Bethany will be sharing part of her personal story. I'll be sharing my story. And so we'll be on stage together, just hopefully encouraging people to see the incredible resource that Align Life Ministries is, not just in saving lives, but transforming lives for the kingdom.
So tell us about your personal journey.
My personal faith journey started with my parents. My parents, Henry and Andrea Bomberger, love the Lord. And when you love the Lord, the natural outflow of that is loving people, which is why they had 13 kids. 10 of the 13 were adopted. I was the first of 10 adopted. But my journey to Christ, it was kind of from day one, but personally it was at the age of 13. I went to a church there that's still there, Dove Christian Fellowship. And I remember at a youth camp, we had a missionary from Eastern Europe. And it was so powerful the whole time. And it was at a time when I had just found out how I came to be. My whole life story was kind of rewritten in a moment. And teenage years are already tumultuous enough. But I remember praying with my eyes closed and just praying to God, because I was dealing with a lot of self-loathing and a lot of self-image issues at that time, a lot of lies from the devil, basically. And I just pray to God, God, if you really care for me, you really love me, you will just bring that missionary to me and have her pray for me. And no sooner had I finished that prayer, she puts her hand on my shoulder and she said, don't you think it's about time? Internally, I kind of freaked out for just a moment, but then realizing that God does hear our prayers. And that was really the moment that I seriously committed my life to the Lord. And although I took some detours between 13 and my age now, I never left the Lord. That was such a pivotal moment in my life.
Wow, so very powerful. And you need to attend the dinner to learn about your wife's journey as well. So support like this is needed for ministries like Align Life. What do you hope to accomplish? What difference do you hope to make by being there?
Well, the issue of abortion, it's so rife with so many misperceptions. And even, for instance, when the Supreme Court delivered the Dobbs decision, there were many who thought, oh, well, this fight for life is over. The pro-life, no, it's not over. It's actually even worse in some ways because of states passing these state amendments. But it's the pro-life medical clinics. It's the ministries like Align Life Ministries that are on the front lines and will need to be on the front lines forever. Because evil's relentless, but good is so much stronger. And there's so much good, there's so much God in Align Life Ministries. And that's why it's so important for people to understand these are the folks who will love people. See, the abortion industry lures women with their lies. And places like Align Life Ministries love people with their lives. That's why we need to get behind them. That's why we need to support them, volunteer for them. And that's why my wife, Bethany, and I center our organization, the Radiance Foundation, a lot around the work of pregnancy centers. It's just an honor to be able to fight side by side with them.
Tell us about the foundation.
Ooh, the Radiance Foundation is something that my wife and I started back in 2009. We knew nothing about running a nonprofit. My wife was a teacher for 13 years, worked in both public and private schools. In fact, her last 3 years were in Philly. And I worked as a creative director in the ad agency world. And we wanted to create something that equipped people to talk about these really tough culture-shaping issues. So we created the Radiance Foundation to do three things: to illuminate, educate, and motivate, to illuminate that every human life has God-given purpose, to educate about a myriad of social issues, all in the context of God-given purpose, and then to motivate people to take that knowledge, to take that faith and put it into action. And so let's do, hundreds and hundreds of billboards illuminating the injustice of abortion and highlighting the resources of pregnancy centers. It's allowed us to go into college campuses, Harvard, Regent University, where Bethany and I both met, University of Notre Dame, Columbia Law School. I mean, so many colleges, and be able to speak truth, because heaven knows our colleges need more truth, not less truth. And also do community outreaches like our adoptedinlove.com campaign to actually help fund families' journeys in adoption. So we created the Radiance Foundation because we firmly believe that every human life has God-given purpose.
Yes, that is wonderful. Ryan, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
For more information about Align Life Ministries or to attend its fundraising dinner, check out alignlifeministries.org. Stay with us. We're back right after the break. Welcome back. Coming up tomorrow, Morning Light, our final segment in our Bible Education 101 series. Find out where experts believe Noah's Ark landed, plus what evidence has been unearthed to support the biblical story. And that's a look at what's coming up tomorrow on Morning Light. Now, Jeff, your closing thoughts.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm looking forward to that. I've always been curious about where the Ark landed.
You will find out.
Well, last week, a South African pastor, I won't share his name, made a prediction on TikTok that Jesus would return to earth, rapture his followers, and the world would come to an end. It was going to happen on September 24th, 5 days ago. That pastor claimed Jesus himself had given him the news. Thousands believed, some quit their jobs, others stopped paying their bills. But he was wrong. It's the latest in a long string of those claiming some special knowledge outside of the pages of what Scripture has revealed, what God himself has said. And it's not limited to those off-the-mark prophecies. You've heard it too in your life. Your friends, loved ones, people you meet on the street tell you, God told me to tell you, marry that person, buy that car, sell those stocks. But every time someone steps outside the pages of Scriptures, that's dangerous territory. God's revealed word is on the record. Every other good word is opinion, not the gospel. We know that God will keep his promises. But the day, the hour, the time of his return is known only to him. It's right there in the Scriptures. So let's stay focused on the mission of loving and serving the person right in front of us today. For Deborah and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for starting your week with us. Go check on your neighbors. God willing, we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.